speaking of empirical evidence, maybe this is a good, as we wrap up here, maybe sharing each one of your favorite stories of helping a client.
Ooh.
Or maybe even personal.
Yeah. How about you, Kara?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm not ready for that question. Are you ready for that question?
I could come up with
one. Okay. I'll think of one while you're talking.
I actually have a little book called a Wonder Book of True Astrological Case Studies, where there's a few of the medical stories in there. And I often recite the same ones because they're so good, but I came up with a new one today, which was I had two different friends. One was 50 and one was 60. One's a man, one's a woman. And both of them were double Geminis. It means that they're Gemini with a Gemini rising. And so, double means two of the big three, sun, moon, rising in the same sign. So they're both Gemini, Gemini rising, meaning they're both born at sunrise in the sign of Gemini, basically. And I see this big total eclipse coming. I believe it was a south node eclipse in Gemini coming right on them, right near both of their birthdays. They're both born like a day apart, right there. And here comes this eclipse over both of them. And I'm thinking, wow, we can really see if medical astrology is going to have an effect, because both of them were not leading very healthy lives. And that's a big part of it, And literally the day, both of them came down with blood clots in their lungs.
Oh.
And almost died and were rushed to the hospital. Both of them. Guess what rolls the bronchial tubes in upper lung? The sign Gemini. And the Cancer rolls the lower lung. But both of them, were choking. And the inspiration of breath is ruled by Gemini. The taking in of the oxygen is Gemini. So both of them almost died on eclipses over their source of life, the sun, their ascendant, their body, in the very area. And this couldn't have been predicted for either of them. They never had blood clots before. Neither. One had asthma, one did not. There was no reason for the blood clots. But the eclipse over their sun and ascendant explained it. And that, I thought, was a very good story to share, one of those stoppers.
I thought of a good story. It's probably not my biggest it's more about medical astrology and action. And it's a story that made me cry. I got sometimes I'll do a medical astrology read for somebody and then I don't hear from them again for, sometimes I'll do another read 3 months, 6 months later, sometimes a couple of years later. And I got this beautiful email from a woman, and I am allowed to talk about this, I asked, that made me cry. We had done, like I said, I work with a lot of weight loss and medical astrology because you can really look at where the stumbling blocks are for people with certain charts. And this woman was a Sagittarius and a lot of mutable energy, and Sagittarians don't really want to be limited. They don't want to be put on a diet, right? They kind of bug the system if you start to give them too much restriction, ruled by Jupiter. And so this woman also had Jupiter about to transit her 6th house. So, and when Jupiter goes into the 6th house, you can gain weight quite easily. Like it's I know you know this, Judith, but yeah. So, Jupiter going into the 6th, I always want to warn people, take some action now. Let's use Jupiter differently. How can we access this planet? And so I suggested to this woman who I thought had some food sensitivities as well. I took her off gluten and dairy. And I basically put her onto a paleo style diet, which I don't do for everybody, but, no grain, no dairy. And I kind of hinted about ketogenic diets, which is super high fat diet. So I was moving her towards there, but I was like, that might be a lot. See how you go. But I find, strong Sagittarians often do really well with, ketogenic diet is high fat and Jupiter rules fats. And so I kind of was suggesting this and we laid out some guidelines and off she went. And I always get a little bit worried about giving instructions to Sagittarians about diet. Anyway, a year and a half later, or a year later, I can't remember, I get this amazing email from this woman. And she's like, I just need to tell you, these are the best emails as a practitioner. Judith, I'm sure, has lots of these as well. She's like, that reading changed my life. I took your dietary stuff and I went and read the books you were talking about. And I know you suggested keto as well later on, but I decided to dive in there and learn about it. And she had shifted the way she eats was eating and into this ketogenic style, which I find works for a strong Sag at times. And she had lost 110 pounds in a year and a half. 110 pounds. And she was in her 50s from memory, maybe even 60, which, every decade makes it a little bit harder to make those changes. And she's like, it's completely changed. She was carrying a lot of weight. And she's like, I'm at my goal weight for the first time since I was 15. And it was this big, beautiful, it's those emails that you open and you don't expect. And then you have a good cry. And, obviously I emailed her back, but it was amazing. She had done all the work herself. I hadn't even helped her do it. I was just that little starting point for what was a massive journey on someone who had been trying to lose weight her entire life. That was a beautiful moment of medical astrology.
Oh, yes. And probably her life expectancy went up 10 years.
Oh, I'd give it, even more, 100 pounds. So 45 kilos or whatever that is. That's wonderful, Kara. Those are the emails that make your year.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned the Sagittarius and fats, because I've been studying the work of Phyllis Light, the herbalist, and she's I think she's the one that I was reading that's very, very big on fats for fire signs. Fire signs burn. They need metabolism, and they seem to do well with fats better than some of the other signs. And
I can attest to that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And wanting that fatty, especially with strong Sag, wanting that fatty nature to foods and sauces. I often find Sagittarians love their little fatty sauces.
Oh, yeah. What I love, a couple of my thrills have been when, I get tossed a chart and 5 doctors could not figure out what's wrong with this person. And just like Dr. Davidson says, you can see sometimes in the twinkling of the eye, and you open it up and, oh, my God. Yeah. There's inflammation of the spinal cord. You see it in 1 minute. And I go trotting back to the doctor, which the waiver they must do. And they give me a call. You were right. Yeah. You're the only one. And this has happened so many, many times. It does. When I was really, working at this. And it'll sometimes I can't say the psychic faculty is at work, because this is very mechanical. But sometimes you will get that flash of inspiration, like somebody's helping you out. You just absolutely so many times to solve that mystery case. And that's just fascinates me.
And it's such a beautiful part to medical astrology, right? You get given the symptoms and you can hone in on where it's coming from. I love that. I think that's probably the biggest gift of medical astrology.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Or people learning to understand, and maybe this is the nutritionist to me, people learning to understand why they have their likes and dislikes of food and why their attitude to food or what they're addicted to. The explanation of it, I find when people kind of know that that's part of their astrology, they learn to be gentler with themselves. And I think that's another beautiful gift regular astrology does that as well. The acceptance of the self and why we are the way we are, rather than beating ourselves up over why we are who we are.
Well, and as you showed with the weight case, it's also a wonderful preemptive tool. I've seen cases where people were getting a disease, and you look at the chart. Oh, that person is, you don't tell them, likely to be, fully crippled in 2 years, and you have 2 years to turn it around. And by the time they get there, they're not only not crippled, they're better than they ever were.
Yeah.
Through remedial steps taken with their licensed physician. So, but the astrology can give lots of hints. So it is in the right hands. And I always like to say, people really do need training in this field. You do need to know what you're doing, which is one reason Kara and I are planning to give this wonderful little big seminar in October. And we're going to, every talk we've planned is extremely practical.